Hello there, welcome to Holy Moonlight Crusaders, where we're playing the first tree. Picking up right where we left off last night, we are exploring this interesting world as a fox, looking for some answers. Now, with a lot of the different programs and games that I play, I always like to look at the world view. And so far what we found out about the worldview of this is we've examined the issue. And what is the issue that the story arc is looking at? Well, answers. You know, it kind of throws you into this empty mist where there's a lot of different things going on, but you're not sure exactly what they are. You're trying to find some answers about who you are, why are you here. This fox, she's looking for her kits. The first one we find is presumably deceased, and she's looking for two others. And just some answers about life itself. Very metaphysical and existential game, and on the topic of metaphysics and existentialism, here we are looking up into the stars. The boundless regions of
Joseph,
God's domain.
I can't go to sleep feeling like this. I'm sorry for everything, and I know you need space. I'm here for you. You don't need to feel so lost.
Interesting.
Joseph, have I ever told you what my mother was like?
Oh, what do we have here? So we've got a fox out in the wilderness of space itself. Looks a little bit like the vacuous Rom battle in Bloodborne. We're going after a deer.
You know what it's like not to have a mom at home. And you know how hard that made my
Beautiful
childhood.
color palette. You've got
What
mostly
helped
blues
me was
and hints of
watching the
purple
birds in
and
the
green.
morning before the school bus came.
And of course the black and
I thought that my mother was one of those birds, and it made me want to be free like her. My mom taught me how to fold origami rings while she was in the hospital. So I told myself I would fold one every day until I could fly myself. I think we both have always loved animals, and for me that love started with a dog. Sometimes this Rottweiler would come up to our property line and wait at the fence for me, but only once in a while. I was sure to check every day immediately after school, and it usually ended in disappointment. I would even steal money from my passed-out dad just so I could buy these off-brand dog biscuits. Even when she did stop by, she never went beyond the fence. I was so scared. I think my dad was the opposite of your dad in almost every way, except he was in the military as well. He coped with alcohol of every kind. The trailer started falling apart, he got angry, and I withdrew. More and more I became the weird, quiet kid who made lots of origami birds and carried dog biscuits around. I think we were pretty similar when it came to being the weird kids. And that same sincerity in college was one of the reasons I was so drawn to you. Life got worse and worse. And at one point, I really didn't think I could survive another day with my soul still intact. I had no real friends, let alone neighbors, since we lived in the middle of nowhere.
Check out this.
I should have talked to my teacher, but I was scared what he would do if found out. As I waited for the school bus one
Not being
morning,
stable.
I walked around until
make
I
an
found
adjustment real
something
quick.
in an abandoned shed. Something I can't put into words. I summoned courage I didn't know I had, and I broke my dad's room and found the key to the shed where he had locked my bike. I'll never forget that feeling. The wind rushing by my ears as the sun rose over fields of wheat. I was lying for the first
Interesting
time.
conversation on dads.
I
We're gonna
biked
have
as
in a
far
second
as my
one.
legs could take me until I found
The
a house that
dialogue ends.
felt friendly, and that felt like home. Those strangers helped me in so many ways. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have found my foster family. And if it wasn't for my parents, I wouldn't have met you. You have strength, Joseph, and you're not as alone as you think.
It's all just so pointless. Just waiting for life to happen. It's like having the home I always wanted is cursed out of my reach. The thought of being a parent myself. How could I do that when I couldn't even be a good son? I'm sorry. I know what you're saying. I just don't know how things will work out. These quiet hours will turn into years. we'll wonder which roads passed us by.
Then we'll forge a
Hello,
new
tradesman
road
Tyler.
together. Besides, I discovered for myself that one fateful
A lot of
morning
dialogue.
where any hopeful road leads to. There may be thorns and mist, but it always leads to the same thing.
What's that?
Family.
I'm so glad that you're part of my family, Rachel.
A lot of interesting stuff to talk
And I'm
about.
glad you're part of mine.
Is the dialogue over? Alright, so one of the things that this is going towards is family. And of course, family is the oldest institution given to mankind, given to man before sin even entered into the equation. And family is a essential structure for humanity. And the nuclear family, where a man and woman, they leave their home, they come together in holy matrimony, and they start their own family. They leave their mother and father's house to start anew. So all of that, of course, is very interesting. And I have got to turn off the volume on that because it's going to get some feedback. Ugh. But back to the whole discussion of family. It's an important theme here, but also there's some estranged relationship with fathers in this. It's interesting it's actually talked a lot about fathers. It's portrayed them neutrally to well. Game is hotter than your mic. Alright, well then I'll pull the game down just a little bit then. We'll pull it down about there. So, yeah, there's some interesting relationships with the family and the father here. They're both obviously estranged, and I say that estranged, from the true role of the father, the true role of the family. Though Joseph, who is the main character reliving all this, obviously the fox is a mother not named Joseph, but he's the one having the dream where he is the fox. He's kind of a little bit intrigued by his dad, but also estranged by his dad. His dad is evidently passed away, and he now understands more about his father than he did when his father was alive, which is not uncommon. And now he's questioning, what if I become a dad? How could I be as a father? Well, first of all, in our society, we have moved away from the biblical models of family, and in doing so, people have lost a good understanding of what it means to be a father, to be a mother. And you see this family kind of struggling with that. You get the subconscious truth of our culture bleeding into this game, but you also get some transcendental truth, so something which isn't tied to our modern culture. This issue of rising up to being the Alpha Adam and the Alpha Eve. For a while, I have operated, and even when I talk and minister with people, there really is this impulse that's created deep within the human spirit by God, where each of us has a desire internally to have the Alpha Adam and the Alpha Eve in our life. Now, as created by the image of God, we achieve having the Alpha Adam and Alpha Eve in our life by going out and getting married. If you're a man, you actualize into the role of the Alpha Adam yourself, and therefore you want to go out and get married to a woman, and she actualizes in the Alpha Eve, and then you have the unit complete. You have come together, and you have formed a union. Again, the whole idea of marriage, when you look at the biblical understanding, it is a union of a new creature, really, and hence why adultery is akin to murder. It's the same thing. You're killing something. There is a life that is united with the two. And it's very important of a concept because this is also how God's covenant with mankind is modeled. And men and women, they are different. But that doesn't mean that one is more valuable than the other. They're very complementary to the other, even though they are different. They have different capabilities. The modern world that says women can do everything that men can do, well, in order for that to be true, then men have to be inferior to women because men obviously can't have babies. So the notion that the two sexes can do everything is obviously not true. But generally men are physically larger and they interact with the world a little differently than women do. You always have exceptions to the rule, but women tend to have a little bit different way. They tend to emphasize, relationships, a little bit differently than men do, where men like things. We like tinkering. We're a little bit more visually stimulated, but nonetheless, the two are completely essential. One cannot exist without the other, and I don't need to explain why that is. But for our species to propagate, we have to embrace the divine image which we were created into. We have to reach back to our providential design in order to produce a new generation. And here within this game, you do hear this young couple talking with one another and kind of uneasy about becoming the Alpha Adam and Alpha Eve, which is something which everyone is called to do. And another thing which is important if we look at the biblical model of family is God realizes that it is a big deal to step into that role. But we also, if you adopt the biblical worldview and you embrace the eternal truths which mark our creation, God also is one that teaches us that mercy triumphs over judgment. In other words, you don't have to have all the answers in the world. I'm reminded of the father that comes to Jesus with a son that has a evil spirit, and he says, "I believe, help my unbelief." That is how God wants us to come to him. Of course, faith beyond that is also very pleasing to God, but at a minimum, just saying, "Look, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." There's some confusion.
She was almost there. The rain cascaded onto the Jade Valley where the entrance to the tree was.
Oh.
Life was protected there, because that's where life
No.
began. It was now only a mother and a daughter left. Items from my life still dotted the ground as she moved closer to her destination.
We'll let this talk.
And destiny.
We'll get back to our dialogue in a minute. Well, I guess the dialogue's over. You don't have to have all the problems sorted out. God wants you to step into that role. He will sanctify you and work with you as you step into the role of Alpha Adam and Alpha Eve. And with all things of spiritual nature, which everything we do is a spiritual matter, the more we realize that, the sooner we'll be able to deal with the fact that our society is collapsing because the devil, Legion, understands everything is a spiritual matter and is always looking to have an advantage over you. Sin, it is predatory, it is crouching at the door, and its desire isn't just for evil to happen. When you look at Genesis 4, where Cain is talking with God, evil's desire is not that Cain kills Abel, though it's obvious that it's pleased when that happens. No, evil's desire is for Cain. It wants to rule over him, and God says you must rule over the evil. In our world, everything we do is a spiritual matter. And God doesn't want or demand us to have all the answers. He knows that we're not capable of that. It's not an expectation that he has on the front end. And you don't have to have all the answers sorted out to become Alpha Adam and Alpha Eve. But you just have to be willing to embrace that and step into it. And this really is how we are designed. And when you get to other issues that plague people, such as same-sex attraction, there really is something where the whole shift of stepping into the Alpha Adam, Alpha Eve role gets put ajar, and people externalize that rather than internalize it, which is why a lot of times men who are interested in other men, they have very difficult relationships with their father, typically. Not necessarily all the time, but there are some trends there that you can't ignore.
Caesar helped me understand how essential emotion is in architecture.
But back to the whole Adam and Eve thing.
Light is the real composer of space.
When you look at Mary and Joseph, you look at Zachariah and Elizabeth, you look at Abraham and Sarah, they don't have all the answers, and they're given pretty big tasks.
And if the illuminated space is something I'm less than comfortable with.
Try to get that where I can hear the dialogue on my monitor in here. Nope. Controls. Technology is great when it works. The minister that trained me and the pastor that preceded me at the church where I'm at would always say technology is great when it works. because some unpredictable mishap would happen quite regularly, regardless of what was going on and where it was. And even things beyond our control. You'd be setting up somewhere else at a different facility and something goes wrong. Setting up in your own church facility, something goes wrong. I have done the best I can in my time to weed all that stuff out, but dead batteries, all sorts of things happen. But it's interesting, they've taken the conversation to the question of family, which is connected with the tree of life. Like an update. I'm not sure what we mean when we say like an update. Oh, like an update on technology. Yes. Yes. Updates on technology make stuff terrible. I was actually migrating a computer today from Windows 8.1 to Windows 10. And halfway through the upgrade, it's like, hey, the processor on this isn't eligible for this newest update. You can install an older version of Windows 10. And I was like, okay, we'll do that. And then it was like, nah, we can't let you download that. And I had to stop everything I was doing and go dig up an old version of Windows 10. And after dedicating an hour to this, I said I will finish this later, because it was starting to consume the entire night, and I had other work that needed to be done. Had to make some little trees, actually. Design some little trees and stuff. I thought I saw something sparkling up there. Maybe it was just the light. No, well, we'll go back this way. So, yeah, this looks very interesting. When you go to the Tree of Life, the issue of family. And family is the smallest form of society, and it's really the most important form of a society, where a man and woman come together. And we have a lot of things in our world that are trying to redefine family, and some of those are rather obvious, but some of them are not so obvious. We have this proliferation of interest in sending our elderly to the nursing home rather than taking care of them ourselves, which, by the way, there's a commandment on this. If there's somewhere out there, I feel like there's this list of 10 essential rules that God has for us called the 10 Commandments, and
My dad was
pretty sure one of them is
supportive
honor
of
thy
my
father and
college
mother,
plans.
which
To
a good
point.
an alternative translation of the Hebrew would be take care of your parents when they can't take care of themselves, take care of family.
Due to a bad axle, and it crushed one of the workers there. My dad didn't eat for days, even though he wasn't directly involved. It devastated him. Not only did it hurt the business, but it just freaked him out. He would talk in his sleep, muttering things about firing people and saying sorry. One fateful day, he approached me, said that since my school search wasn't going well, I should finally be a man and take over the family business.
Which
He
you
said
should.
one day he was going to die, and that all of his work, sacrifice, and even that man's life would be wasted in vain. I just lost it. Teenage me just exploded at the thought. I screwed up. I said things I shouldn't have.
Yeah, you
He
probably
was
did.
having a crisis, and I pretty much spit in his face.
Yep, you probably did. This whole modern infatuation we have with the university is something I find to be absurd. I deal with a lot of people, and a lot of people of different walks of life. I know people who are doctors. I know people who haven't graduated high school, who have upwards of some middle school education, of older generations. If you're of the modern generation and haven't finished high school, that's very different than if you're our grandparents' age. And I'm almost 30, so my grandparents, their age group, it's very common for people not, but in our day and age, yeah, there's a red flag there. But I mean, if somebody's got a GED, that's fine. But I'm talking about people who, in the modern day and age, don't even have a GED. But where I was going with all this is, wisdom and intelligence aren't the same thing, and academic credentials and intelligence aren't the same thing at all. And we've sold our young people this terrible lie that academic credentials are wisdom and intelligence, and they are not. Young people, if you're out there listening to this, happily get into a trade. Happily get into something where you work with your hands. You may not have to do construction or something where you do that in your entire life, but even if you did, that's perfectly fine. Those things are very meaningful, and they give you a better worldview because you're connected with cause and effect relationships. If you're, this guy is a lumberjack. If you make a mistake doing anything related to lumberjack work, say a tree falls and kills people, which you heard that dialogue there, something like that happened, you know, there are real consequences to it. You get in the university, you tell a terrible idea, you lie about history like a lot of our universities are, you do a political pandering narrative, I don't care what it is, you know, if it's a lie, you don't have any immediate consequences from that, you just bring chaos into the world. Which gets me to a G.K. Chesterton quote we'll get to in a second. But yeah, people, they should up to the plate. Yeah, your dad did want you to become a man. Become a man and step into that role. Be happy. You may not think that you like it, but one of the things that is fundamentally true about life is many times in life we find joy in things that we thought we would hate. When I was a young man, which little quick version of my testimony, I was doing stuff I ought not do in high school, got my head bashed in, had blood everywhere, and crawled to a bathroom at Sycamore High School in Cheatham County, and was in the bathroom and couldn't really see, still had tunnel vision, almost blacked out from bleeding out my head, and I said, God, if you'll get me out of this alive, I will serve you in ministry. Which was a stupid wager. Don't try to negotiate with God. But I wasn't very theologically astute at the time. Anyways, things got a little better, and I said, well, I'll become a missionary. I don't ever want to be somebody who speaks regular or anything like that. And then I became the youngest senior pastor in our district in the Church of the Nazarene, not because anything was special. If anything, it was probably God's divine comedy or divine mockery, parodying my life, saying, well, you think that you don't want to do this, this is the thing you'll do. And I found it to be very fulfilling. I love it. Wouldn't change it for anything. A lot of times people think they won't like doing things like work, and then they find that, you know, maybe it's more enjoyable than you thought. There's more to life than pleasure. Hence why even in Eastern thought you'll find something like hedonism to be considered the lowest form of life. So, back to this idea of G.K. Chesterton, I want to talk about the thought that stops all thought. For me, I'm somebody who's very much a proponent of liberty. And when I say liberty, I'm speaking Christian liberty, which is liberty from. And when you look at America's history, it's largely designed around freedoms from. The government can't take certain things away from you. The government can't take certain protections away from you. But, and being somebody who's very into critical thinking, reason, looking at logic systems and things of that nature, I've kind of been one who is willing to entertain all thoughts for a little while. I don't mean I'll agree with it, but I'll learn just a hair about it. And G.K. Chesterton, he writes that there is a thought that stops all other thinking, and that is the thought that must be stopped. And it's something which a lot of us who, say you're in the libertarian-esque movement, but libertarian isn't really what people, I don't know that there's really anything that's truly libertarian. Tradesmentologist just stepped in saying never wanted to be a construction worker. But tradesman Tyler is far beyond a construction worker now, and owns a house. He's been married for 10 years. Has two very, very bright girls, two beautiful little girls, who have very different personalities. One is definitely like their mother, and the other is definitely like their father. Yeah, the people I know that are living that dream of having their home, their family sorted out at a young age are far less likely to have gone to university than those who didn't. Who don't have those things sorted out, I should say. But let's talk about the thought that stops all thought. It's a tongue twister to say that. So G.K. Chesterton, he talks about how the Christian virtues, they got broke away from the religious structure. And he was writing this about 100 years ago, and he was saying there are people in our world who want to criticize religion and religious authorities. And they are the sort of person that would criticize the police having never heard of a burglar. Or perhaps pretending that they had never heard of a burglar, which we have that going on literally now. People think that there's no need for the police, like they've never heard of a burglar.
Was that the last time you talked to him?
No, I called on holidays, and he would call on my birthday. I guess we acted like nothing ever happened, which was stupid. Didn't want to ask about his lumberyard, and I'm sure he didn't want to ask about my job search. I never went back and visited. I think the last conversation we had was about what movies we'd seen and what exactly a best boy is in the credits. I thought he would be here so much
And also,
longer.
people in the modern day and age don't know how to negotiate difficult situations. We have lost the ability to talk about things that are uncomfortable. You can talk about things that are kind of a little negative and uncomfortable. You can sort that out. But Chesterton talks about how virtues have gotten cut off. In other words, mercy has been separated from truth. And you find examples of that where there are people who want to run compassionate ministries and social services, but they don't want to hold anybody accountable. They just want to enable stuff. Versions of this exist in our culture where
only thing she was capable of. Moving forward. My dad died alone in the middle of the wilderness. I should have been talking to him more.
Is this the first
done
tree?
a lot of things differently.
Oh, that fox looks deceased too.
If the first tree on earth brought life with it, it taught the birds to sing and fly and showed saplings how to grow. What could it do for us?
Yeah, return back to that moment. It can do great things for you. Embrace who you really are and don't cut it off. What I was talking about there is you find people who they're dealing with like homeless and they give them needles. Instead of holding people accountable, they say, well, we'll give you sterile needles so you can inject, hardcore drugs straight into your veins, things of that nature. They've separated truth from mercy. Then you find other people like, say, Nazi scientists who are experimenting on children. They've separated mercy from truth. Whenever you separate virtues, bad things happen. And in our modern day and age, we have separated meaning from thinking. And Chesterton says, we're on the verge of creating a generation of people that are too humble to even believe in arithmetic, as opposed to the critics of old who would have scoffed at the idea of anything that really challenged where they were at. Now we're at people that are too humble to say they believe in anything. And you find this all around. People are politically correct. Your truth versus my truth. Oh, you have a different truth than me? I'll sit over here and listen to you and let you talk about that, which it's all destructive. And Chesterton said, this is the thought that stops all thinking. Just as one generation could end all future generations by everyone jumping into the sea or entering to a monastery and never having any children, you could destroy the human race. People have allowed a thought in that says there's no purpose and reason. That's somebody else's truth that belongs to them. There's no purpose in faith. Religion never had any reason or meaning behind it. It's all bad. Ignore all of it. And we've trained people not to have any metrics. This is the whole idea, which is branded as being open-minded, but it's really very, very closed-minded, because you're not open-minded if you say no and reject everything, which of course is impossible to do. It all gets contradictory and you'll start embracing something. And that's where the idolatrous spirit of the age comes in and gives people a wicked, wicked worldview like we have now with all this stuff like social justice, which really is evil. It's not the biblical model of justice at all. Socialism usually creeps in. Legion, some devil will creep in and give you a worldview. But God wants you to return back to Him. We're returning back to the tree of life. We as people, we need to be thinkers. We're critical thinkers, willing to examine the world around us. And the best way you can do that, because you have to have a worldview. You can't do it without a worldview. You have to have eyes to see and ears to hear. I took my dog out one day. He didn't really have eyes for a snake, so he was stepping all over a snake. He just didn't really know it was there until it tried to bite him. Then he has an eyes for snakes now. You have to have eyes to see and ears to hear, and that comes from God, and it comes from returning back to how we were designed. This fox, she has lost her children, and she is now returning back to the tree of life, where life began. And this young couple, they're contemplating their existence as they return back to the tree of life themselves. They are stepping into the roles of being Alpha Adam and Alpha Eve, realizing that they've made some mistakes. They didn't understand the role of Alpha Adam and Alpha Eve in their parents' generation. The world around us has vilified fathers, and they're both estranged from their father because they don't
There was a letter I received yesterday
really get it.
from a name I didn't recognize, with a quote I can't stop thinking about. Death is not the opposite of life, but a part of it. More and more, I'm realizing one important truth. Each of us have our own journey to the first tree. But sometimes I'm not sure I'm ready to take that first step.
You already have my love.
Interesting. So yeah, death is not the opposite of life. Death is uncreation. And death was uninvited to creation. It's not part of the original design of humanity. But death has been defeated by Christ Jesus. And this fox is walking slowly. So this game has been a pretty interesting metaphor. From the dialogue, the things you've seen, you would think this is rather empty. It's kind of like the music. You get that low, droning colors. You get those harmonies coming together, both with the simple cel shading that's visually there and then also there musically represented in the fox. But then the dialogue is that quick melody, the active movement that reminds us we all are called to step back into the role that God designed us for. Even as tragedy is around us, because we live in fallen creation, something beckons us back where we find meaning. All right, it says, the first tree awakens. She gently asks, if there is one last What message shall we put here? We'll leave something. We're going to put this right in there. Oh, hope I'm not spelling this wrong. How is believe spelled? Now I'm starting to throw myself for a little bit of a loop here. I'm over here embarrassing myself. You know, I used to be so good at spelling. But let's slip this in there. Let's see. Alrighty. Yes, that is correct. But I want to add a little addendum. So this is obviously out of Mark chapter 9. I believe, help my unbelief. I want to add in actually, we can do this. So we're going to do this. I really wanted to put this scripture there. I believe, help my unbelief, but I can't get the full passage there. Actually, we are going to do that. We're going to have where Jesus raises the child up. Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. Oop. Okay. Okay, we're so close. And he arose. Oop. Yeah, typing on the Switch is not a lot of fun. You know, I actually don't mind typing on the touchpad in the middle of the PS4. I actually got the hang of that. Okay. And actually, I'm going to take out that but. There we go. Cool. Different contraction, but that'll work. Or different conjunction. Okay, there we go. Cool. Oh.
I guess her journey was over. But I have no idea. It was only a dream. A distraction from tomorrow.
I don't think dreams normally bring back to memory so many important feelings.
But it's also a hearkening of the future.
It was also a gift.
If you don't
Yeah,
become
I suppose.
who you are
Tomorrow
meant
we're
to be,
getting on a
if you
plane
don't
to
step
the
into that
last
role,
place
if this
on
couple
Earth
doesn't
I wanna
become
be.
Alpha Adam,
The
Alpha
only
Eve,
person
there
that
will be
would've
no
made the
future.
trip worth it is
Just like her
gone.
children were gone, you know,
You're going to
it's the
see
responsibility
him and
you have
be
to step
with him
into.
one last time before you say goodbye. I have one last quote for you by Emerson, sealed in an imaginary letter from me to you. It is the secret of the world that all things exist and do not die, but only retire a little from sight and afterward return again. Go to sleep, my love. We
I
have
had
a
to
big
throw
day
in a little bit of
tomorrow, but I'll be there with you every step of the way.
some reincarnation
Thank you.
stuff.
Thanks for listening.
Which,
Good
again,
night,
that's
Rachel.
not a Christian tradition,
Good night,
but
Joseph.
there is this understanding that the breath of life returns to God, and God is the judge of the living and the dead, and He decides what happens. But there we go. Alrighty. Let's see what happens next. This has been a fun game. It really did go where I was expecting it to go. I was thinking it would have that movement back to Eden. I wasn't expecting it to have the Adam and Eve elements there in there with, you know, this couple stepping into their role and the true nature of the family. I wasn't necessarily expecting that, but I'm glad they did. It was well done. I was just expecting it to go back to the whole tree of life. Are we going to be a fox? Or are we going to be somebody else now? Oh, well, this was unexpected. Some women's clothes in here. This is the same map we were at earlier, I believe. No, it's not. Maybe. Similar to where that house was and the geography around it. That was down in that valley. And man, they have made a mess out here. Nope, we can move quickly. Nope, nope. We jump up this. Nope, not the Running Man. Which is an Arnold movie. Which is actually not bad. Our world has been infatuated with the dystopian hellscape, and now people are trying that out for themselves. Whether it be the autonomous zone, the infatuation with socialism, whatever it is. Alright, we've hit a barrier here, so we can't go that way. So we'll go up this path. Not go through there? Do we need to go get that truck and just beat through this fence? And I really wasn't expecting you to change characters. I'm not generally a fan of when that happens in games. Just let me play as the fox. I know it would have been a short game, but I would have been alright if it ended at the other. That would have been fine. So they got a house for us to explore. Children's room. Pink. Is there a little girl in here? Are they expecting one? What's going on here? They're still in Alaska. In case that wasn't obvious from out here. Oh, there's the purple and yellow truck. Can we get inside the purple and yellow truck? Are there any keys hidden anywhere in here? Is It's where you would expect a key. A lot of this stuff adorning the house, these are articles from earlier in the game. Bricks, puffs. We all know what those cereals are. And they're good cereals, too. So you might remember when Trix cereal was shaped like fruit. I want to find a key to that truck. Two sinks? How modest. Maybe I should say how elaborate. Yeah, I don't see anything else we can do in here. Nope. It's just like a back door. Yeah, I was about to say, I bet we can't go too far back here. My inclination is to go that direction. But we don't have any means of going that direction. Well, maybe this is just the end of the game. You get to explore right here indefinitely. Very mysterious. Yep, there's nothing in here at all. See, it appears that there's something glowing up there as well. No idea what that could be. Is it just the light source coming through on this? Like, what do we got? Strange, strange, strange. Alrighty. Well, we have explored enough in this house. This may just be the end. You may just get to explore it. It may just pull in the treasures and relics from everything you found before. Maybe it's kind of final thought for you. Yeah, there's some interesting artwork up there of the fox. More fox. I guess that's supposed to be the father there, his father. That guy looks more like a soldier there when he was closer. That may be her father. Oh, tent. Pitch a tent. Was that a clue for me? I'm going to imagine that's a clue. Wanting us to go find a tent. It was some impulse trying to tell us something. Is the tent in the house? Is the tent out here? Is it a pre-pitched tent? Do we have to pitch the tent? No tent? No tent. Nothing. Oh, there's a rabbit. More tires. They got a lot of tires. What are they doing with tires? Goodness. We can go this direction. Don't think we've gone this direction before. Let's go out here. Maybe we can find our tent. There's the tent. Someone else has pitched our tent. That's okay, I guess. Okay. Not much happening there. There's a little Zippo. Is this an old car down here? Wow. Who would take the time to drag this old car out here? Alright, we're going back up towards our tent. There's not a crouch button or anything like that, so... I'm not sure what those do. Zoom in? Weird. Well, somebody's turned that chair over. They don't like sitting next to the fireplace. Oh, you just keep pressing forwards and go in it. What, are we gonna pretend we're a fox out here? Rummaging through someone's tent?
What the hell?
Unexpected language here. There is Fox. This is a little bit like the whole Call of the Wild movie with Harrison Ford, Buck. But instead of you get the wolf, like the fox gets the wolf calling her, the man gets the fox. Where's she gonna take him? Lights coming up. Oh, that's a beautiful scene. I love it. Oh yeah, that looks great. You don't expect the call of the wild, but yet you can't escape from it. It is there. Really, I would say beyond call of the wild, the call of the providential design, which is transcendent and larger than all of us. Be nice if the call of God's design came as a fox that you would get to visually see. which we had something far superior to that, so I shouldn't say that jokingly. Jesus coming as fully God, fully man is far superior than a fox. So I'm not wishing Jesus had been a fox at all. What I'm essentially saying is it would be nice if God sent us messages carried on the back of a fox. That would be sometimes clear. I'm talking about something much smaller scale. We're gonna catch this fox. And we're gonna keep it. Oh, this looks like the tree. Garden of Eden, we've always been looking for it in the Middle East. It was in the Middle East. It was actually in Alaska this whole time. Duped. Again, that's a joke. And this tree looks different than the other tree. Oh. Interesting. I love you with all my heart. Be strong and courageous. May God go with you. Real courage. There's the fox. There's the 3 kits. There is I wasn't expecting a so overt theological implication. So yeah. Not bad. I wonder if that's someone else's message they left there. Cool. Well, anyone that watched this, I thank you for watching. We just played through the whole game. Oh, I was suspecting if the guy that actually did the voice was actually the man that did this, and it looks like it was he and his wife. And I was wondering when I saw it, I should have said it at the time, I wonder if the girl in bed was modeled after a real person. But it was. Cool. Very cool. Somehow, even though this was in Alaska, I feel like Canada is somehow responsible for this. But I'll give it to them. Unity. Could have probably guessed that, but which just the engine and stuff in the game. But it's pretty cool. I liked it. Okay, cool. Very interesting indeed. So thank you for spending some time here talking about this. So we played through this whole game. Sure. We will do that. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So thank you for spending time with me here at Holy Moonlight Crusaders. I am J. Dylan Proctor, the Nazarene Preacher Man. And so in wrapping up our stream on the first tree, God love you and have a blessed day.